Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of the Technical Advisory Committee meeting, March 7th, 2022. So we will start by seeing if we have any public comment. There's nobody present live, so do we have anybody virtual that wishes to speak? Okay, we'll do that. I'll do that in a second. In here, so I can't tell. I'll give another couple seconds to make sure there's nobody virtually that wants to speak. Okay, so now actually I'll jump back and kind of pass it over the roll call. So we will do a formal roll call of attendees.
Jeff Sims.
Here.
Mike Williams.
Here.
Brian McCarthy.
Here.
Jonathan Scott. Melanie Calloway.
Jonathan is calling us in today.
Brian Pissarro.
Here.
And we also have Chris Jadick virtually. Michael English.
Yes.
Robert Frey.
Yes.
Clay Hollis.
Present.
Gina Evans.
Here.
Leland Dicus.
I'm here.
Julie Ham. Mark Hudson.
They both called in Bixby's today.
Yep. And Danny Jorgensen. Margaret Kublins. Jay Collins.
Present.
Jennifer Malone.
Here.
Nicole Sutton.
Present.
And is Sarah Caper here?
Yes.
We do have an in-person quorum. Some members are participating virtually because of medical reasons in the local declaration of emergency.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you for that. And let me kind of start off with just a little bit of introductions and so forth. I'd like to welcome, it's Clay Hollis, correct? So he's a new member for, I was going to say Port Authority. What's the correct name for it?
Yeah, Port Tampa Bay.
Port Tampa Bay. So I'm kind of a holdover. But I don't know if you want to say anything, but we welcome you. Certainly, I've been wanting to see the port back involved with this group because I think, you know, based on what you do and the logistics, it's real important that we have a voice from there. So, you know, welcome you to be here. And, you know, again, if you have anything you want to say, give me a nod. Otherwise, we'll love to hear from you during the meeting.
Happy to be here. Happy to be invited.
Very good. And, you know, I briefly mentioned Sarah's kind of been in the bullpen waiting to officially get joined, but she's with the Community and Infrastructure Department, right? And that's the new, one of the new Bristol County ones. And I think Wednesday she'll be official. So early welcome to you. And, you know, I guess starting your voice will officially count for the next meeting. So welcome you being here. Next up is the approval of the minutes from February 2022. They are attached to the packet. Do we have any comments, questions, or edits proposed on the agenda?
I can't make the motion, but I wanted to tell Gail that they look really excellent. I love the format and it's really easy to kind of scan through these. So thank you.
Yeah, I noticed the difference. It was, I agree that it was probably a little bit easier to follow and certainly detailed. And also I want to thank Mike for pinch hitting last month for previous engagement. So no comments or questions. With that, we'll look for a motion for approval of the February minutes.
This is Jay Collins. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you. Do we get a second?
Second.
Okay, and thanks, Clay. Please announce your name when you, so Clay Hollis.
Clay.
Thank you very much, Clay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, we will move forward. So, give options or, okay. So we're going to stay according to plan here. And next up will be the TIP amendment for Hart Maintenance.
Good afternoon. I'm Connor here to present the TIP amendments. If I can just get control of the screen so I can share my presentation, that would be great.
Gail, can you guys do that? For company.
Got it. Thank you. Can everyone see the screen all right?
We can.
Yes.
Perfect. Again, Connor McDonald, CPO staff, here to present TIP amendments for the Hart Maintenance Facility and Gibson Drive widening study. So there's 3 amendments requested by the Florida Department of Transportation to add funds to the year 2022. One for the removal of $4 million in SU funds from the bus replacements, and another to add that $4 million to the maintenance facility item. The 3rd amendment is to add $201,000 for the Gibson Drive widening study. The Hart Maintenance Facility amendments came from a TPO directive in November 2021 to move funds from the bus replacement pool to the facility. I had the chance to tour the maintenance facility myself, and I saw firsthand the issues the facility faces. For one, the facility is downhill, sort of in a basin, so it's prone to heavy flooding from sheets of water that come flowing into the area. It was originally built in the 80s as a large truck repair facility, so the design itself isn't conducive to an efficient process. An example of this is the low ceilings on half of the garage area, so buses can't be raised for repair. In addition, the counterintuitive design means that buses must make a 90-degree turn to go from fueling to washing. Not only are these issues great in and of themselves, they also make it difficult to retain talent, as many mechanics have chosen to work at more sustainable facilities. So I did have the chance to take some photos. In the top left, you see where the buses can't be raised in half the garage. The top right is flooding, like where the concrete has cracked. The bottom left is that 90-degree turn that you see in the fueling station straight ahead, and then the washing on the left. And the 4th photo in the bottom right is residue from flooding inside the building. So the 1st amendment is to remove SU funds totaling $4 million from the bus replacements item, as you see the removal here. And the 2nd amendment is to add those funds to the maintenance facility program. The next amendment is for the addition of funds for a PD&E study on Gibson Drive from Fern Hill Drive up near I-75 to US 301. PD&E studies, as defined by FDOT, ensures transportation projects are developed with current engineering standards, project costs, and minimization of social and environmental impact. The project will include some public engagement, including a kickoff meeting, small group meetings, and a public hearing. The amendment is to add $201,000 for a PD&E study in the year 2022. As part of the public outreach pilot, we have taken some measures to help inform the public. This includes the posting of 3 signs, a web page, a newsletter press release, and social media posts. With that, the recommended action today is to approve the 3 amendments to the fiscal year 21-22 TIP and recommend approval to the TPO board. With that, I conclude my presentation. Are there any comments or questions?
Okay, thank you, Connor. So we've got 3 amendments proposed. Do we have any comments from the committee on the proposed amendments?
Jeff, I have a question about the Hart maintenance facility. Connor, are they looking at rebuilding on the site, or are they going to try to find another site to build an additional facility, I guess, or a replacement facility?
Right, they are looking to an area where they park some buses now. They're looking to build a parking location, and it'll take some strategic planning to park the buses in a different area while they tear down one building and build another. But they are planning to keep the site on the same campus on 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I actually, Jeff, I had a question that went with Mike's. Basically, I was wondering, Connor, if Hart provided what the capacity of that facility is, and are they actually meeting that capacity? So not only do they need to redevelop the site because it doesn't function well, but they're at or over the capacity for the maintenance that they need to do.
don't quote me on this, but I believe that like in terms of capacity, they do kind of have to rotate the buses for maintenance when they're working on the buses. So they don't have like the space to work on all of the buses at the same time that they need capacity wise. Does it answer your question, or was it a little bit different?
No, I think that's part of the answer. I think where I was getting at was we are all as a group, as is a lot of other people that do this type of work, constantly wondering when HART will be able to expand its fleet. And if they do expand its fleet, is that maintenance yard of capacity to hold an expanded fleet, or is it throwing good money at bad?
I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if there's anyone from HART on the line. Let me check, because that would be a great addition.
Connor, you're bringing up a good point, if I could, that with their reorganization, we lost our HART representatives, so I need to reach out to make sure that we get one, because these are really important questions. And I know that maybe even Mike English confirmed that I know that the streetcar facility just was not sufficient enough for those either. So that was a big issue for the HART to find a place that was big enough. And I think this is the same case with this one.
Thank you.
Connor, he toured the facility and took those pictures. I love that you went the extra mile on your TFP amendment this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I believe Chris Danudis is from HART and he's on the line. I don't want to put him on the spot, but if he's available to answer that question, that would be great. I think you're self-muted, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Connor, for putting me on the spot. I appreciate it. Hey, I think Jay asked this question. I know, as you know, I'm new to HART, but I know that HART is looking at a satellite facility. Where that satellite facility is, I don't know. But yeah, the campus here is, quite small and getting tighter and tighter, and accommodating more buses is definitely going to be a challenge. So again, we are looking for a satellite facility to store buses, and especially during the time that that they'll be constructing the heavy maintenance facility. Hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments, questions? I don't really have a question per se. It's probably just more so a comment. I would hope that when they build out this new facility, that there should be a push for the electrification of buses, and that the facility already have that accommodated to be able to handle those type of buses when they get built. That's certainly directed at HART, nothing for the committee, but just kind of something I observe because the more I deal with these things at the electric vehicles, the more we find try to plan on the front end. It's much easier than dealing with on the back end. So with that, if we have no other comments or questions, can I get a motion to approve the proposed amendments?
Brian Pizarro, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Brian Pizarro made a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Gina Evans, second.
All right, I think Gina got you, get a little bit ahead of you, Bob, but thank you for participating. So with that, we will all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, next up is the commuter benefits ordinance request letter.
See Sarah Hendricks that joined the meeting. Oh, there she is. Great. And
Hi.
Controls.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Not what I want. Okay. So thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Hendricks. I'm a senior research associate at the Center for Urban Transportation Research at University of South Florida. And this initiative got started when we were invited to give a presentation to the Citizen Advisory Committee about transportation demand management strategies. And TDM, as you know, it's a broad toolbox of information and outreach programs and services, incentives, disincentives, and partnerships that help remove barriers to using a range of different kinds of transportation options. So these would include things like public transportation, microtransit, carpooling, vanpooling, walking, biking, and telecommuting. So we were invited back in early February to the Citizen Advisory Committee, at which time I gave a presentation on one specific strategy and recommendation. This presentation was developed in coordination with Christina Costa of Pedal Power Promoters and Kenneth Bowden of Commute Tampa Bay, that's part of TBARTA. So I'm going to talk about commuter benefits ordinances, which is one of the recommendations that had come out of a study for implementing TDM region-wide. And I like to start with a goal that I think all of us can agree on, and that is that we all want a safe, world-class multimodal transportation system within a livable community. But where do we start with that? And so this recommendation aims to provide a starting point. This is a doable action that gives a boost to public transportation, but it's also business friendly, it's employer friendly, and it's employee friendly. And what it does is it addresses what a recent survey found, that more than 1/5 of employees quit because of a bad commute. The Society for Human Resource Managers calculated that on average it takes 42 days to rehire after an employee has quit, and it costs on average about $4,200 to recruit, hire, and train a new employee. So if you multiply that cost by employee turnover at a company, this is a large expense to employers. And so we think that a commuter benefits ordinance, also known as a transit benefits ordinance, we think that this can begin to address this. A commuter benefits ordinance, as proposed here, would require employers to do two things. First, the employer would provide information to their employees about all their many transportation options and services that are already available in Hillsborough and regionally that employees can use to travel to and from work. Many employees don't even know that they have access to up to 6 free guaranteed rides home each year if they use alternative transportation. They don't know that if you start a van pool, you have access to $400 subsidy per month. And so, secondly, what this proposed commute benefits ordinance concept would require employers to do is to offer to set aside up to $280 a month per employee in gross earned income. And this would allow the employee to pay for their commuting expenses pre-tax. So this pre-tax income could be used for a transit pass or for van pool expenses. The federal Internal Revenue Code already enables employers to do this. It's known as Qualified Transportation Fringe Benefits. Most employers already do provide a transportation subsidy to their employees, but that's in the form of a free parking space. And that's whether you want it or not. And so if you do not drive, if you don't have a car, then you cannot enjoy that benefit. And this is not equitable. So with the commuter benefits ordinance, as it's proposed here, this does not require the employer to provide a subsidy. It does not require the employer to provide anything extra. But what it does do is it puts more money in the employee's pocket because less of their gross income is being taxed. And it also can save businesses on payroll taxes. So why would we want to have a transit benefits ordinance? So equity is a big reason. So like, for example, AAA recently came out with the calculation of the total cost of car ownership. It's close to $10,000 a year. An employee who chooses to use their pre-tax income to buy, say, a 31-day Heart Unlimited Ride Express Pass with free transfers would pay less than $1,200 a year for that transportation commute option. And that could potentially save thousands of dollars in household budget for other things like food, medical expenses, household emergency fund, and so forth. And so the transit benefits ordinance aligns with public policy in support of public transit. the end result is that more people would potentially be riding public transit. Van pools tend to serve longer distance inter-county commute trips that public transit cannot serve. More ridership and more van pools means more passenger miles traveled that is reported to the National Transit Database, and that results in more transit formula funding coming back to the area. And so this creates a positive cycle of benefits for the area. So what we're asking is that the TPO board send a letter to its 4 local government members, which would be, of course, Hillsborough County and the 3 cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, and Plant City, encouraging the local governments to consider adopting a transit benefits ordinance. And so this draft letter, which is in your packet, it discusses the 2 proposed requirements, sharing transportation information to the employees and then setting aside pre-tax income. And the employee, it's important to understand that the employee is free to say, no, thank you, I'm not interested in this. So it's not requiring the employee to do anything else either. The last paragraph in this letter lays out resources that are available to local governments, including Commute Tampa Bay and the 3 transportation management associations in Hillsborough. We stand ready to provide assistance to employers to help them get information out to their employees about transportation services. And then also, this letter mentions the Florida statewide TDM clearinghouse that can provide tech support to crafting an ordinance if local governments want that kind of tech support. Right now, there are 9 cities and the state of New Jersey that currently have transit benefits ordinances. And so with that, that's my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Sarah, this is Bob Fry over at Thea. I got a quick question.
Yes.
Are there any potential negatives for the cities, the county to add this that we would hear back from that we're not taking into consideration?
So I think that that if you did a cost benefit analysis, there are potential costs to local governments. For example, had an ordinance such as this, then of course, if you have an ordinance, you would want to monitor and enforce. And so there might be some amount of cost on the part of staff to make sure that employers are following through with this. So the cities that do have these commuter benefits ordinances on the books, we've looked to see what their enforcement experience has been. And what we've found is that very few employers don't follow through simply because this is an easy ask. So it turns out to not be expensive to the local governments to enact an ordinance like this.
I agree, just asking that question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Gina, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you got any feedback from the presentation you made to the CAC on this.
Yes.
Did they give you any feedback differently than just putting it?
I can't quite hear you. It's kind of cutting in and out. Did you ask whether the CAC had a positive response to this presentation? This is a similar presentation to what I gave to the CAC. Yes.
Basically, yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So the Citizen Advisory Committee voted to unanimously to take this recommendation to the next level, which was then to craft a letter, which is what we did. We created this draft letter, which was reviewed by the TPO staff. Then last week, we presented the letter again, and the CAC voted to approve taking it to the TPO board. I also presented this to the Livable Roadways Committee, and they voted unanimously to approve taking this request to the TPO board.
Thank you. I just asked specifically about them and the Livable Roads. Some of the people representing are business owners, or I just wanted to know what different, besides us government has thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Gina. Do we have other questions? The group? Okay, I'll go ahead and ask a question. First of all, especially, representing the EPC, we wholeheartedly support any concept that would encourage use of alternative transportation and reduction of single occupancy vehicles on the roadways. So this would appear on the surface to be heading in the right direction, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm just more kind of digesting it all.
Sure.
Again, it seems that way. Now, when you talk about the businesses, having to offer the employees this potential pre-tax benefit, would that be an additional cost to the business, or simply just, the time it takes to arrange and to operate within those rules to make that money available?
Right, yes, there would be no additional cost. I mean, it would be basically an accounting exercise to set aside the income pre-tax. So we do not see this as an additional cost to the employer.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to kind of make sure that's how I was interpreting it. So. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? Yes, Brian.
Sarah, I'm just curious, have you given this presentation or a similar presentation to anyone in the business community, like say the West Shore Alliance or the Downtown Partnership? And if so, what type of feedback did you get from the business community? Like, was there any pushback?
Yes, so we have not presented this to the West Shore Alliance or the Tampa Downtown Partnership. I did present this concept to the New North Transportation Alliance, and the response was favorable to it.
Gina, can I ask a question to you? I mean, this is an MPO question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I know that Johnny Dr. Wong has been doing creating a database where we're pulling data in from different areas and stuff. I'm just wondering if this is a metric or something that those that did it that would be trackable to provide that service, which would then allow the communities to do it without having to add anything, and you get a good apples to apples evaluation across the board. I don't know if that's a thought or if it's come up, but I do know that we've talked about sharing information and stuff like this. It just seems this may be something worth tracking and within the MPO's wheelhouse.
Oh, look, Johnny jumped on. I was going to think about the data portal, but go ahead, Johnny.
Hey, Bob, that's a good question. And no, we hadn't considered recording this data or bringing it into the portal. I think that's a really good idea, especially for program evaluation. The local governments might really appreciate having some data after a few years to see the impact of this. So yeah, that's definitely something that we should work into the rollout if we get to that stage.
Yeah, and it's definitely consistent with the MPO mission and stuff. I think that would be a good fit. So thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay.
That's okay, thank you. Sarah, so this is Jay from the Planning Commission. Does this formalize an already informal process that many businesses already undertake? Because there are many businesses that already do a lot of exactly what you're talking about.
So my understanding is that a lot of businesses really, they're not familiar with it and they don't do it. And so, I mean, the Internal Revenue Code allows them to do it. And it can be a very powerful benefit to provide to their employees. So in other cities that have something like this, employers provide subsidies, or they might provide some kind of a transit service. Here in Tampa General Hospital provides a shuttle, for example, allowing their employees to park remotely, and then the shuttle takes them to the hospital. So different commute benefits ordinances are written in different ways, and our proposal here is to keep the commute benefits ordinance as simple as possible. Not requiring the employer to do anything other than to provide information, transportation information to their employees, and then also offer to set that gross income, set it aside so that the employee can use it for their commuting expenses.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Well, no, you
Yeah.
did, especially with the idea of the example from Tampa General. Again, it's already something that is in the code, the revenue for IRS. And so now it's basically, it sounds like with an ordinance, it's the local government being able to say, we find that this is of value, we encourage this, we would like to see our businesses pick this up and run with this. And here is our collective oomph behind it, basically.
Exactly. Yes, that's the idea behind this. Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Yes, I do. So I just want to say from my perspective, again, I'm sitting here coming from a health right perspective. And just, I think what Sarah said about it frees up much needed, money in a household to be able to provide all of the other things. This is innovative, it's timely, it already exists. It's really just about normalizing it and getting people to utilize it. I think it's much needed. And so, I mean, I don't think there's any loss in this.
That was Nicole Sutton. Thank you, Nicole. Sounds like you want to make the motion. All right, let's see if we have any other comments first, and then we'll. Yes, Ron.
Is this are we the first in the state to do something like this?
With regard to an action by a TPO board, I don't know for sure. I would guess yes. I've talked with Jeff Kramer. He works at the Center for Urban Transportation Research and provides tech support to the MPOAC. And, I asked him what he thought about this. And, he basically said that he really likes the idea of metropolitan planning organizations, providing recommendations to local governments on, what more that they can do. I don't think other MPOs in the state have taken this step yet.
Hey, Sarah, it's Christine. May I chime in for a second with the group? This is Christina
absolutely.
Costa from Pedal Power Promoters. As Sarah mentioned, I was one of the persons who kind of put this together and tried to get the ball rolling. I did want to contribute some answers to the questions that have been posed by some of your committee members and cite that the TBARDA CAC also passed unanimously the wish to advance the local governments encouraging this ordinance. And also there was a question as to whether any of the business enterprises like the West Shore Alliance or the Tampa Downtown Partnership have been presented with this information. And as Sarah said, not formally and not in a large group. However, Karen Kress, the Director of Transportation with the Tampa Downtown Partnership, is on the Livable Roadways Committee, and that committee, as Sarah said, did vote unanimously to advance this effort. So I just wanted to chime those things in. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christine, for clarifying that. Okay, any other questions, comments? I think we're moving towards motion time. Seeing none. So it looks like the requested motion is to request the TPO board to approve the letter and transmit it to the governing boards of partner agencies for consideration. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion, Nicole Sutton.
Nicole Sutton with the motion. Do we have a second?
Jay Collins, second.
Thank you, Jay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, sounds like it was unanimous. Thank you, Sarah, for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
And I think we're ready to move on to status reports. First up is the PD&E for US 301.
Yes, hello, good morning. This is Amber Rousseau. Could someone make me the presenter, please? Thank you. All right, can everyone see my first slide?
We can.
Okay, wonderful. Like I said, my name is Amber Russo. I'm the FDOT project manager for this PD&E study. Also with me on the line is Bob Fink. He's the consultant project manager with AIM Engineering. And we are giving you a status update on the PD&E study from US 301 from Fowler Avenue to State Road 56. So here's a map of the study area. You can see it starts down in Hillsborough County on Fowler and moves north up to State Road 56 in Pasco County. The purpose of the project is to provide additional capacity and improve safety, as well as improve mobility for pedestrian and bicyclists. I also want to note that US 301 has been designated by both counties as an emergency evacuation route. The project is approximately 13.1 miles long. Today, the US 301 is a 2-lane undivided roadway, and the existing right-of-way varies from 100 to 200 feet wide. US 301 is an important north-south corridor. It connects regionally significant corridors listed on your screen. It's also a hurricane evacuation route and connects regional centers in Zephyrhills and Temple Terrace to the Tampa Bay area. As part of the preferred build alternative, we have 2 typical sections, starting in the south end from Fowler Avenue to Stacy Road. This is a 4-lane divided roadway with a 30-foot raised median, 4-foot inside paved shoulders, 5-foot outside paved shoulders, a 12-foot shared use path along the west side, and a 6-foot sidewalk along the east side. And the target design speed in this section for this suburban typical section is 55 miles per hour. Then moving north from Stacy Road to the end of the project at State Road 56. This is a more rural section. We still have the 4 lanes undivided and a depressed 40-foot median with 5-foot paved outside shoulders, and the 12-foot shared use path continues along the west side. The target design speed for this rural typical section is 65 miles per hour, and the proposed right-of-way totals to 235 feet wide. I also want to note, where possible, pavement savings will be achieved by converting the existing 2-lane roadway to a southbound operation, and then we'd be building for the northbound. There are 4 bridges and structures along the corridor. They are in good condition and structural capacity. They're listed on your screen here. The typical section on the screen is over the Hillsborough River, and you can see we are proposing to keep most of the existing bridge, adding a bridge for the shared use path, and also the northbound operation where possible. Since this will now be a divided roadway, we have to manage the access. So FDOT policy, this is the access class 3, so it requires restrictive medians. And based on the allowable spacing, we are proposing 15 full median openings and 11 directional median openings throughout the corridor. Since we will be adding pavement for the widening, the project proposes 8 off-site floodplain compensation sites and 13 stormwater management facilities, totaling to an additional about 106 acres of right-of-way that will be required. And the graphic on your screen is an example basin map that you can find in our pond siting report. As part of the PD&E study, we analyzed all the environmental effects, including impacts to natural and cultural resources, as well on the social and physical environments. The estimated project cost, including design, right-of-way, CEI, and construction, totals to just under $200 million. Federal funds are not currently planned to be used for this project, so we are developing a state environmental impact report, or a SEER. And I also want to mention, in your long-range transportation plan, this is not in the cost feasible plan, but it is in the needs plan. Same with Pasco County. Study began back in May 2015, and we are planning our public hearing for March 24th. Based on feedback and comments from that hearing, we'll make any changes that are needed, and our goal is to have study approval by the summer. And as far as funding, design is currently underway, but right-of-way acquisition and construction are not currently funded. Like I said, the public hearing will be held on the evening of Thursday, March 24th. The in-person component will be held at FDOT's District 7 headquarters in Tampa. And you can also attend virtually via GoToWebinar, but you must pre-register to be able to attend, just the virtual portion. I have the project website on the screen along with my contact information, and I want to thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Amber, for with my map here, for the presentation. Do we have comments on the study, where they are so far? Yes, Jay Collins.
Thank you. Mr. Russo, you had mentioned that this is not currently a priority for Hillsborough County versus the long-range transportation plan. Can you discuss that a little bit further in the district's decision to move forward with this project?
I think I have some FDOT staff on the line that can better answer that question, our government liaison office.
Thank you.
Hold on one second.
We didn't hear what that last comment was.
Yeah,
Oh,
Are you able to unmute Kirk Bogan? I don't think he's a panelist.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Kirk Bogan with Florida Department of Transportation, the environmental management engineer. That is one reason that we are doing a state environmental impact report. We know that there's a need, and if the funding becomes available, state funds, that we'll be ready to improve the corridor. It's also a safety, one of our safety concerns along this corridor, with all of the accidents that happen along this corridor.
So yeah, you mentioned safety. Safety obviously is a concern of this committee and other committees. It's interesting because this segment of US 301 is pretty much wholly within the rural service area. There are a lot of needs in the urban service area specifically towards safety. We also find it's interesting, staff, I should say, we as staff finds it interesting that it's a capacity project within the rural service area. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Williams, he's sitting next to me, but whenever we actually add capacity to a state facility in the rural service area, it causes issues within the local capacity network for the roadways that intersect. Again, I'm putting words in Mr. Williams's mouth, but it's the issue of what happens when one facility is improved and another facility will not be improved because of policy set forward by the Board of County Commissioners. I just wonder where it is that the district comes with, basically, what is the planning process behind moving this forward when there are so many other needs that the residents and the elected officials of Hillsborough County have put forward?
Can I ask a question here? Sure, Kirk. I was just curious, Kirk. Also, was that area served in the industrial area and the shipping with the port, and also those industrial needs in there being serviced by this corridor?
Yeah, 301 is a freight corridor. And as you know, on either end of this corridor, there's a 4-lane facility that's being proposed that we're currently designing from 56 up to 39 and north through Zephyr Hills. And so it is important to note that state roads are regional facilities, and we have the capacity to be able to move traffic through those rural areas also. I guess that would be my response to that.
Well, what about the response to the question that you asked? About why you're not looking
I
at?
asked too many questions at once. I really need to apologize to DOT because I just unloaded a bunch of stuff on them right there. But which point?
Okay, the part that I was hoping to hear was why not direct the funds towards some of those high injury corridors that are really causing some both delays and crash issues than a place that isn't on the high injury network.
Yeah, US 92, US 41, other areas that have demonstrated need for high risk.
Yeah, it's not a community concern.
Gina, when we have worked over here at the Expressway Authority with them on this project, and I just want to let you know that they contacted us early. We worked with pedestrian and Vision Zero type improvements at the 301 Selman ramps with them and up the corridor as well. So I know it may not be a location that is desirable to everyone, but they have done their due diligence working with us at least on the safety, freight, and pedestrian pieces of that. So just want to throw that in there.
Before DOT answers then, you said safety, but I see that the 200-foot, it's a brand new design, doesn't even have buffered bike lanes, and it has 65-mile-an-hour speeds and 55 and 65-mile-an-hour speeds it's not even up to like your standard now. It's a better bike facility than a shoulder is what I saw in the cross section. So I guess I still love the answer to why can't we find, a few more of those projects on state roads that are in a community concern, that are high crash. And also, if you're gonna do, I wouldn't call it a safety improvement if it's gonna be 65 miles an hour without a buffer bike lane. That's a lot. So, sorry.
I didn't hear all of that, but we are looking at those other corridors. We have studies on those corridors. We have projects that are ongoing on those corridors. And so, but this is also a corridor that does have safety issues with a lot of, with many head-on crashes that you may find in the corridor.
And I also want to mention about the bike lanes in the rural section. So those 5-foot paved outside shoulders, those will not be designated as bike lanes. We have the 12-foot shared use path along the west side. I know that there are different types of bicyclists, but the separated shared use path is proposed for that section.
That's good, but cyclists aren't legally allowed to be on the roadways. And if there's not, a bunch of cross sections or driveways or a side path is fine if there's long sections that are interrupted a bit. It's not, I thought the standard is on at least the buffered bike lane was the standard now. And the speed limits are really high, like that's higher than some limited access roadways. So your head-on collisions or other collisions that do happen are going to be very severe.
Sorry, are you asking if there are head-on collisions?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's a little hard to hear you.
Yeah, I think it's because of this.
Oh.
Ms. Russo, I think she was just talking about the cause and effect of high speeds on roads such as these.
Understood.
Right. Okay, so I think that, yeah, I think there's just a general concern about the growth of this going out there and the carrying the high speeds. And of course, one of the primary things we're interested in is the safety of all forms of transportation. And I know, at least back when I used to be out there, biking was really popular. I'm heading that way. A lot of people like to go out towards the Hillsborough River State Park area. So this is an area, of focus and concern. I think Sarah got a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to stress that particular piece with the old Fort King Trail and the Cross County Greenway, which are in the Hillsborough County Greenways plan, master plan, that this is really important to us. And I also stress the concerns with the shared use path, especially with it being on one side of the roadway. It's better than nothing. We really appreciate having a shared use path. But if people are on the eastern side, they have no facilities if you're bicyclist or pedestrian, and we also need crossing opportunities. So we appreciate having a shared use path, but I think share those concerns that we're still missing some accommodation.
Okay. And certainly some of those types of improvements can be done without actually doubling the right of way and widening out the road.
Right, this does seem like quite a wide, I know there's a fair amount of land out there from what I remember, so I think there's a little bit of space, but I also know, again, I don't live in that part of town, but Sonoma Salsa is kind of blowing up, so I'd be curious about how close we are encroaching to existing neighborhoods and whether there might be a need for, considerations on the noise levels and so forth on those that are existing. I know it's a lot of rural to the west side, but the east side is definitely growing, so I realize you've taken a lot of these into consideration, but those are important factors for sure to be considered.
Let's plan for 6 lanes, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you are right, Mr. Simmons, it is growing in that area, but it's also growing in the rural service area under that land use. You spoke of Thonotosassa. Thonotosassa's community plan in that area actually looks at US 301 as a rural cross section. So it's, there's a lot of things at play here besides just moving cars up and down the US 301 corridor. With that, I think I missed what happened, obviously, with the CAC. It would have been interesting to have heard the CAC. But personally, I would like to make a motion that the TPO send a letter of comment along with this as it travels. I think that there's a lot here, especially the road widening outside of the urban service area. Specifically, that undermines much of the county's growth management strategy. This project was at one time on that cost feasible long-range transportation plan, but it's been taken out. That was something that was found out in the efficient transportation decision-making review when we looked through this. There are higher priorities that are listed within the county, specifically with transportation networks such as the widening of US 92, where it parallels and relieves I-4. That serves the key economic spaces, the vicinity of Sable Park and County Line Road. Again, those are specific to the county's growth management strategy. And finally, I know that there are a lot of people around here that would like to know a little bit more, and I know that there's going to be a seer for this, but how this will affect the environmental and safety impacts identified in that original review of the ETDM from 2014, and that this is right next to the Green Swamp, and there's a lot at stake when you're actually going to be widening from 100, 120 to 200 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. I also just want to mention that we were scheduled to present to the CAC, but unfortunately they ran out of time on their agenda, so we've been deferred.
All right.
I'm sorry, got some notes here. So I think it sounds like we're gonna have a motion. I'll probably have to, kind of condense it into a form. But is there any other comments before we hear that motion?
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, Mike.
I'm curious why on the 2 typical sections, the bottom one's typical number 2. Why did you eliminate the sidewalks on the east side on that typical and include it on the other one?
think there were multiple reasons. Kirk, you might be able to answer this one a little better than me.
Well, one of the reasons is that there's not a shown need for the sidewalk in the rural typical section, but as you can see that we did grade shows that we graded the area so that sidewalks can be added when they're needed.
Okay. Thanks, Kirk.
Okay, any other comments?
Amber, can you go back, there was a slide you had that I think showed the like timeline of this project, but kind of like the history of it. Can you go back to that?
Sure. Oops. So this one?
Yeah, okay, I just want to, okay. So is the study, when you say the public hearing, March 24th, so is the study pretty much, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, the study's not done, is it?
The study's not what?
The study is not complete yet, is it?
Well, the study isn't completed until we have our public hearing and we engage with the public and have discussions with them and gather all the comments and make any needed changes. And then is finalized by choosing a no build or the preferred build alternative and then receiving district approval for this one.
I guess what I'm driving at, is this the first time, and is this the first time somebody's ever seen drawings?
Yeah, I don't recall seeing.
I'm just trying to put myself in that guy's shoes there, if I'm sure that you guys are thinking short was saying. So I'm just trying to see both sides of the story.
Well, so along that line, I mean, I think it's worth finishing the study and whether the next phase, design, right of way, construction, all of that gets funded or not. Those are further decisions, but I do think it's worth finishing the study.
Well, do you think the comments, like Jay's potential actions to just provide comments on the study?
I'm sorry, excuse me, Chair. This is Gail Reese, the recorder. There's 6 microphones on the center table in that room. If everybody can direct their voices towards that, it'll be easier for us online to hear.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay for us to give comments. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. My only point was, I think that's how I should finish the study. They're so close to finishing it. And then what happens next, it's really, those decisions will be made later. It's not necessarily, again, whether we end up supporting the project or not, that's not the point.
And I
want to just finish the study and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Williams. I think the point here is for staff that deals with policy on road management issues within the county and transportation issues within the county for the Board of County Commissioners are on the record with where our road management and our transportation policies are stated for the county. That's all.
And it does look like, if this started in May of 2015, it probably was started when it was a priority for the MPO, in DOT's defense. Now, it went on hold for a while, so I'm not sure what that was about, but it looks like it probably at least got into the work program when it was.
This is Leland. I have another comment. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Leland, okay, go ahead.
Oh, this is Leland Dykes. Yes. No, I'm just looking back at the slides, and one of the goals is to improve safety, right? And I think that this corridor is one of the corridors that's listed under the high injury network, in the top 50, the high injury network. So I think that improvements to address the safety are definitely with, one of the goals of the county and the Board of County Commissioners to improve safety on this corridor, or maybe just a greater emphasis on how, what improvements were examined in the PD&E that would improve safety, and how would it improve safety? How would it address the crash frequency and severity along the corridor? I think that might help with, support for the proposed improvements.
Okay. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I do know from time to time you hear about it because it's a rural 2-lane road with high speeds. You get those occasional head-ons. I think it gets, I don't know how the volume is, but the incidents are usually, dire, and that's a heavily impacted concern. And I, obviously the whole committee, I agree Leland is concerned about, safety and improvement of safety on the project. I think it's just taking into account the whole scope of, its priority there and its build out and, in the context of what Jay was asking. So, Gina was getting some information. So I think we are at the point of going forward. I don't see any more comments coming in. So at this point, I guess I'll ask Jay again. You had initially suggested you might want to make a motion. If you can kind of summarize it in a.
I certainly can, but I think I hear Mr. Fry trying to get in.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. Yeah, the two questions I have on the study that I'd like to ask a little bit for is the future volumes, what we're seeing in those areas, because I know what we're seeing south of the Selman on 301. What are we seeing on the north between New Tampa and down there? And then also the percent of new heavy vehicles and how that's impacting that corridor for safety as well, because we're putting those vehicles out there and you have heavy vehicles, it creates a different situation, and that road has a different function than some of the other roads around there based on the surrounding land uses. So those are two areas that I'd like to get some more, I guess, information on to see what the future design year traffic looks like, as well as the heavy vehicle percentages and how it works with the port on that. So thank you very much.
Sure. I don't have the information in front of me, but Bob Fink is also on the line. He might have that information. I know it was included in the newsletter. The volumes were. Bob, if you're still there.
Hey, I'm sorry, can you hear me? I'm trying to figure out how to unmute myself.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Let me see if I can pull it up from the newsletter. Not being a traffic person, it's.
You can get back to me on this. I mean, this is not an immediate answer. Those are just two items there that would help ultimately while the study is done. Thank you.
Sure, we can do that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we can just, hear that response separate from the meeting. So again, I guess, Jay, if you'd like to make a motion, you can do it.
Sure, yeah, so the motion would be that the TPO send a letter of comment about this US 301 project with that in mind of the adopted plans and policies, specifically towards the fact that the road widening is outside of the urban service area, that this project has not been on the cost feasible long-range transportation plan since 2014, that the county does have higher priorities for safety, including through the high injury network, such as US 92, where it parallels and relieves I-4, as well as we would like to know further information about the environmental and the safety impacts that were identified back in the efficient transportation decision-making review of this.
Okay, so basically we have a motion to send a comment from TPO with all of the facts stated. So do we have a second?
No, I've got a comment on this. Won't the TPO be a peer reviewer of this PD&E? Most PD&Es go to the county and the planning commission for that. it just seems like your comment, Jay, is more of direct comments from the county and the county transportation planning than from a TPO and a metropolitan planning organization, technical advisory committee. So I'm a little on the fence here on being able to support something like that. You will have the opportunity to make those comments in the review process, correct?
So Bob, this is Gina. I just want to say that I believe this item will go to the TPO board, and they look to our committees for advice on technically, and the citizens groups and livable roads for our input. So I think that answers part of the question. And I don't see any, we've got the DOT on the TPO board as a non-voting group, so they get to hear the comments from others. They don't really have a sounding board of citizens or other technical groups that get to, speak to them about their project. So I think it's just we're advisory, and we can share with them some of the thoughts that we have.
So Gina, I'm sorry, this is Mike. Do we know if this is going to go to the TPO board or not? Because that was kind of my question. We make a motion, whatever, it passes. Doesn't it have to go to the TPO board if a letter is going to be sent?
Oh, no, we can.
Or we could send our own letter and without benefit, it would go into the larger.
Oh,
And that's a question, really.
Right.
I'm not sure I know the answer.
And
This is Suzanne. It is going to the TPO board. It goes after the public meeting. So we present to the committees prior to the public hearing, and then we have the meeting, and then we go afterwards to the board with what comments have been made.
Because I do think this should go to the TPO board before a letter goes, personally.
So,
That's the standard. They all go, but I think Beth has something.
Okay, Beth.
Thanks, Beth Alden, TPO Director. So just questions of procedure. All of the advisory committees are advisory to the board of the TPO. So you're right in asking the question, would the TAC send a letter of comment on its own? And the answer to that is no, neither would any of the other committees. The committees make a recommendation to the board, and then the board makes a decision and decides to send a letter or not send a letter or whatever. The other question that came up was, does the TPO review a project, for example, during the design phase, like a phase that comes after a PD&E phase? At least I think that was what the question was from Mr. Fry.
No, I'm saying that the county will get, the county planning commission will receive the PD&E and get a chance to make the comments that Mr. Collins is making. Those comments come through that part of the process, as opposed to coming from a TP, from the TAC.
So I guess I'd have to ask Mr. Collins if the project would be reviewed by the Planning Commission. I think right now we're just talking about whether the TPO should make comments on the PD&E.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would not, as staff to the Planning Commission, I would not see something that is put forward in this venue specifically to the Planning Commission, my appointed board. I would not. So on the actual land development of Hillsborough, that's why staff sits on these, because this is when we have an opportunity to inform policy. This is it.
You've commented on ours through the review process, but okay. My opinion is on the record here, so I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So based on that discussion, I think maybe the nuance is that it's not a formal letter. So maybe just if you could edit it to say we would like the TAC committee to make recommendations summarized in I think there's 4 primary points you had.
You have, yeah.
So if you could just kind of restated that the TAC committee.
So yeah, so it would be a list of recommendations going forward. Is that I'm a little now confused with it myself, right?
I would say that you can, I think this is the motion, maybe you can edit it. I think the motion would be that the TAC committee provide recommendations to the TPO board regarding this project, as summarized in the 4 points that you indicated earlier that was joining the letter that was initially proposed. Does that sound accurate?
Sure. So the motion would be is for the TAC to provide comment and recommendation in the form of the letter, right?
I would just say recommendation.
Recommendation, comment, and recommendation to the TPO. And again, those 4 points are widening of the outside of the urban service boundary. The project has not been on the cost feasible long range transportation plan since 2014. That the county has higher priorities for safety improvements. And again, there are environmental and other safety impacts that were identified within the efficient transportation decision-making review process, and how will those be mitigated?
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Jennifer Malone.
Jennifer with the second. All in favor, say aye. Do we have any opposed? Okay, with that, I think we will go forward. So, okay, we're all good. Thank you. I think we're ready to move forward. So Vishak is up next.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes, I'm ready to present here. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So for the record, this is Vishaka Shivaraman, TPO staff, and I'm going to be presenting to you the 2050 LRTP projects. It's a status update. And what I'm going to be presenting to you today is projects that have been completed recently or are going to be completed but before the next cycle. As you all know that the 2050 LRTP is up for update. And this currently we are in 2022, and we will be updating the LRTP for adoption. For the 2050 LRTP will be up for adoption by the end of 2024, November. So I will go over the slides and explain to you. Just to give you a quick update to the committee about what the LRTP is. As you all know, that the LRTP is a long-range transportation plan, a planning document produced by the TPO, which includes projects matching the county's vision for the growth and needs of the community. And it is a 20 or a 25-year document, which will help us to guide how the public dollars are spent towards transportation improvements for roadway projects and highway projects and improvements throughout the region. This slide will show you a quick update about the LRTP timeline. As I had mentioned before, this is called the 2050 LRTP. We will be adopting it right before 2025, which will be a 25-year-old plan. And I know the slide is a little small here. I can try to maximize it. If you notice here, during 2021, we have been adopting we have been updating the base year model calibration, which is FDOT is running the regional model. And we are also updating the counts, the traffic counts, the base year model preparation, data preparation, etc. Currently in 2021, we are here in March. The base network coding is happening. We are verifying and calibrating the numbers. And in the meantime, this will help today when I'm going to be presenting to the TAC committee. It'll help us to know where all the projects are standing, and the jurisdictions representatives can give me input as to where we are. Going forward, we will have the future data projects, forecast the existing plus committed projects development, the needs assessment, model scenario analysis, and finally the adoption. So these are going to be some of the next steps, but let's focus on the current steps. This slide will help you to understand what are the preliminary steps. I did explain a little bit in the previous slide, but just to give you a better understanding, currently we are in the base year network updation, which is what feeds the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model, TBRPM. This will include all the projects that the capacity projects that have been completed by the first quarter of 2020, and we also include the existing and committed projects. By that, I mean all the network capacity projects that will be funded for construction that are in the phase of construction by 2024 will also be included into the base year model network. We also update the transit network by getting the data from HART. We also update the traffic counts throughout the county region, and also update the socioeconomic data, including population, employment, schools, and hotel data. So again, the projects, why we are adding the projects to the near-term projects to the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model is because by including the completed projects in 2020, which were not present during the last LRTP adoption, but was there in the LRTP, we'll review the status and see where they are standing. It will help us to identify the program projects to be completed by 2024, and also any missing projects that I can bring it to the jurisdiction's attention today, so that we can fill it in and use it as a discussion forum. We will update the table based on the discussion today and following that. This will lay the foundation for the 2050 to include all the projects that have been completed and also the interim year. This is a slide which includes the projects that were listed. I did include this in your TAC packet for review. So how I have thought about going over these is I'm not going over any of them individually in detail, but this is just to give you an idea about where we are with the projects. If you notice towards the right side column, the projects completed as of 2020, this was done by staff, and we are trying to find out if they are correct. And if you have any questions or if you have any further updates, we can go and note that here and then go over it. So just some of the projects, I mean, I don't know again if I can go over each one of that in detail, but the columns are the projects that have an FPN number. Something let me bring it to your attention is going from left to right for the table. The map ID is what is, if you notice those numbers, those are the ones which were adopted in the, which were recognized in the 2045 long range transportation plan, which was adopted in 2015. So the sponsor agency means which agency is responsible for that project, which is either FDOT, county, or cities. If the project has an FPN number or a project number, that is also there. The project corridor, from and to point, and also a small description about the project. So if it is a intersection improvement or an interchange project, those wouldn't have the number of lanes. All the other projects will have lanes here. And also the last two columns are whether it will be included in the year, as I had mentioned before, or is it already completed as of 2020 or not. Is there any comments that you have to give me here for the last column here, or I can move on to the next page? The projects listed here are 2045 LRTP. I also did include projects which were from 2040 LRTP, which is 5 years before, assuming that most of them should have been completed and included in the network.
Hey, Vishak, I have a question since you asked on, I mean, again, this is just me because I live there, project T16, the 301 south of Bloomingdale, and it's saying it's done. Was that a different project than what's going on there now? Because it's a different project?
No, I think it is that one.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say that's not a yes to me.
Okay. Okay, like I told you, I'm going to be using this discussion today to make notes of any of the miscalculations or misinformation we have here, and then use that to correct and then get back to you. Whatever projects I don't have an answer here, I will try to get in touch with the concerned jurisdiction separately, and I will update it. So again, this is for 437639 US 301 project.
Yeah, I just would like you to look into seeing whether that is yes or partially, because there's a lot of activity that's continuing to go on out there. I mean, and it might be a separate project because they're getting ready to improve the on-ramp onto the access road for the interstate. So I realize that, but if it's not a separate one, I think I would update that. But if you could just look into it, since you asked.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. I have an FDOT representative here. Suzanne, I'm assuming if you could chime in. If not, we can analyze this separately and then get back to you.
Okay.
But this was, yes.
This is Gina.
Yes, Gina.
Are you asking the members to look at each of these projects and see if you've noted them correctly? Because if that's true, they're probably going to need to get back with you on this. But is that kind of what you're asking?
So what we thought of why we thought of bringing it to the table is just to show an update, because this is what will be used for the model input to be given back to the consultant and FDOT. So I just thought that we felt it would be good to include this. If there are any comments or questions that have been raised, we can analyze this separately and then bring it back to the. Like I said, I can either check back on the status with the concerned FDOT or the jurisdiction team member, and then use that to update. But this was information. The yeses are what I mean, the no's are definitely either the project has been changed, the scope has been modified, or it's not. I don't see any updates. And the yeses are where I thought it had been completed.
Vishaka, this is Suzanne with FDOT.
Yes.
The 301-437-639-1, that's currently under construction. The letting date was in February of 2021. So that one would be not a yes right now.
Okay, but it's not completed as of 2020, but it will be done by 2024, right? If it's so I can say that currently under construction, and then it will be yes by the time, hopefully, for the 2024 network. So that's what I have a separate note section, which is not shown in the slide here, but the projects which are either completed as of 2020 or which will be completed as of 2024 are all a yes here. So I will make a note of that and make sure it's marked clearly. I'll add a column and mark it clearly, like not completed as of 2020, but will be let in 2024. Thanks, Suzanne. The other project I wanted to bring it is the Bell Shoals Road from Bloomingdale to Boyett Road. That is also a partial project, and Citrus Park extension I thought was a completed project. It's been open, but seems that it's only partial. This is next page of the attachment. If anybody has any additional information on this, we can update it.
Shaka, on Citrus Park Drive extension, that road's open now. It's at least substantially complete. I think they might be cleaning up a couple. It's substantially complete.
Substantially complete. Okay. Thank you for that. The Selman West extension from Selman Expressway to Gandy Bridge. That also is something which is only partially complete as of now. So I don't have any additional information of when it'll be complete.
Wait, the connector?
Which one was that? Excuse me?
It is T24. It's a Hillsborough County. I believe it's a Hillsborough County project, but I could be wrong. Selman West extension from Selman Expressway to Gandy Bridge.
That's complete and open for a while.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Vishaka, this is Rich. Can
Yes,
I jump in?
Yes, sure, please.
Hey, this is Rich Clarendon. Yeah, I think the question really is, was it open by the first quarter of 2020? Because that really is the base year that we're supposed to consider. So I don't know if that project, which is the THEA project, by the way, so that sponsor needs to be corrected, but I don't know if it was opened at that point.
No, it was open in spring of 2021.
Okay, so it would be added to the existing plus committed network, but not to the base year.
Right.
Vishaka, if you want to skip to the next couple of slides.
Do you want to bring up this for the projects which are in the model network?
No, just go to the next one.
Okay. So this is what Rich wanted me to include to discuss any other projects that have been completed outside of the list what we have here, which are major projects, and any others which were slated for construction by 2024. That also includes any major developer projects or anything else which we need to consider in the network. So that will be your, that's the discussion question here. If there are any projects that can be included in the network.
Do you want to discuss them here, or are you going to meet with us as agencies later?
I could write, I'm sorry, I don't see who is, who asked that question, but I could send you an email and then set up a meeting and meet with you individually if there's anything that I can consider.
Yeah, this is Bob from THEA. Please send an email to Anna, and she'll get you the information on the Selman South and Whiting and Nebraska.
Yeah, I think that's a good, this is Rich again. I think that's a good example or a good protocol to follow with all the agencies. If there are corrections to be made, we can do that offline outside of this meeting. I don't know if it would require a meeting in every case, but at least getting some feedback on this list is what we're seeking.
What I can do following the meeting today is I will send out an email either through Gina or separately, and I will reach out to you all with the list again so that there's any opportunity for missed projects to be added. I can go ahead and update that and include that in the network. So that will give us an opportunity to get the further details, whether it was added in 2020 base year or 2024.
And does this is Jay, does this drill all the way down into, even like in downtown Tampa with Water Street, with the grid being reestablished?
I am sorry, Jay, I don't know to answer that. This is just major roads, which are depending on, so I'm not really sure if the streets within Water Street are considered as local roads or major network roads.
I think everything downtown is considered an arterial, so.
I think it would impact the model. I have a feeling. So we don't have any city staff here today, but I know Mike is mulling this over, and it's not really hard to figure out if there's been any major roads, the projects completed, and probably not other than the Citrus Park at this point.
The Apollo Beach overpass or Paseo El Mar is nearly complete.
Oh, and then
they have partial one there.
Maydale Bridge was done.
Maydale Bridge is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there might be a couple of Vishaka.
I mean, Maydale was kind of the replacement. I mean, it was closed for I don't know how many years, but it was really truly just a replacement.
So I offer to help, reach out to our partners and ask them these questions on the slide for you.
Okay, I will do that, Gina. I couldn't hear you every word clearly, but because you're speaking from far away from the mic, But I did reach out to some of the city staff regarding my questions, individual questions, and I've gotten answers. But to add any other projects that are not there on the list, I will have to reach out to them again. So I will follow up individually and then set up meetings if required. If not, whatever information we can get through an email will be used to update the chart.
Okay, I think that sounds like a plan. Is there any more slides or any other discussion from your?
No, this is just to bring to your attention that these are the projects which are and what are the status, and these are the ones which are going into the next LRTP roadway network.
Okay. So that concludes your presentation, right?
Yes, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Making double sure. All right. Thank you, Vishaka. So is there any comments further that the group has? I think we've covered it probably. All right. So certain staff will be more pointed on this than others, but part of the
Sure.
Sound good.
Yeah, that's
All
what
right.
I wanted to the TAC. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Vishaka. Okay. I think that finishes the scheduled activities. Is there any old or new business that anyone wants to bring up?
No, I'm just gonna see what I
Okay, I can tell you the next meeting is in April. Don't know the date yet, but good chance that it's on a Monday.
looks like the 4th.
Probably, so look for it being on the 4th, I think, so.
Sorry.
Yes.
Third.
The 4th.
4th, never second guess.
Or the Sunday.
Okay, so with that, no other comments?
I'm not with you.
I think we're done, and that concludes the meeting. Thank you.
Clay, do you need a parking